The long-awaited sequel to Beetlejuice finally hit theaters this weekend, but did it live up to all the hype? Was it as anticipated as the studio was hoping? We're gonna find out right now. I'm Adam, this is Does It Hold Up? Box Office Edition, where we take a look at this past weekend's box office to see how well all the movies did, see what came in first place, then we flash back to a movie from the past, check in on a few more charts to see how well movies are making money here in 2024, and as always, we start with what were the top 10 movies at the box office. Let's go ahead and start, right there. The number one movie this weekend was Beetlejuice. This movie made $111 million in its opening weekend, which is kind of crazy. I knew this movie was going to be a hit. I did not imagine it was going to be that big of a hit. The critical response to it has kind of been fluctuating. It opened up rather low, and then the numbers slowly gone up since. Audiences, though, they don't care about any of that. They just want to see Michael Keaton back in that role. And that's exactly what they got. In second place is Deadpool and Wolverine in its 7th week with another $7 million, a 55% drop from last week, but it's made $613.8 million here domestically so far. It's the number 2 movie of the year, and remember, 2 weeks ago, we had 2 new charts where we compared the top 2 movies of 2024 so far to find out which one we think is going to be the number 1 movie when everything is all said and done come January 1st, 2025. And don't worry, we're going to bring those charts back. In third place is Reagan in its 2nd week with $4.8 million, a 37% drop, but it's made $18 million so far, so I'm pretty sure that's all right, considering the fact nobody really cared that this movie was coming out. In 4th place is Alien Romulus in its 4th week with another $3.9 million, or we'll just say $4 million, so we can just get all those 4s in there. A 57% drop, and it is slowly creeping up to $100 million. It currently sits at 97.2. In 5th place in its 5th week is It Ends With Us with $3.7 million, a 50% drop. But it's doing phenomenally well, way better than I ever thought this movie was going to do because, honestly, I hadn't heard of this movie, and I've never heard of the book that the movie is based on. But so far here, just domestically, it's made $141.3 million. That's incredibly impressive. In 6th place is The Forge in week 3, so it looks like I was wrong 2 weeks ago when I said, this movie will probably be in the top 10 and then just fall out real quick, because these movies like this usually do. Wrong I was, and that's okay, I like watching movies succeed. The Forge in 6th place made another $3 million, a 35% drop, and $20.2 million overall. In 7th place in its 8th week is Twisters with $2.1 million, a 72% drop. It saw a really big drop this past weekend because last weekend, when I didn't have a show, it actually saw a really strong hold as there wasn't really much to go see in theaters at the time, so a lot of people were going back to visit this one, and that's why you see that big drop here. It's made $264 million. In 8th place is Blink Twice in its 3rd week with another $2 million, a 57% drop, and it's crossed $20 million here domestically. Despicable Me 4 is still in the top 10 in its 10th week with another $1.8 million, a 55% drop, and it is just under $358 million. That's crazy. Next week, or when this movie finally drops out of the top 10, we're actually going to take a flashback to see all the Despicable Me movies and how well they did compared to each other. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at the 10 movies. No, just the movies that fell out of the top 10. There's 4 movies that we're going to take a look at, but that's because I'm including last week's movies when, again, there wasn't a show, apologies, and this week's. So last week we had 2 movies fall out of the top 10. It was The Crow after just 1 week, and there's a good reason for that. I saw it. It wasn't good. Not even just compared to the 1994 version, just as a movie, it wasn't good. So it's not surprising it didn't do anything at the box office. Also last week, Coraline, the remaster re-release in 3D, fell out after 2 weeks in the top 10. It also came incredibly close this week to jumping back in. This past weekend, though, two movies also fell out, and it was Afraid after 1 week and an abysmal opening, and Inside Out 2 finally falls away after 12 long weeks. This is the part of the show where we take a look back to compare 2023 versus 2024. As I say here every week, you can't know where you're going unless you know where you have been. So we do a weekend to weekend comparison to see who won this weekend, and is that a good sign for our future, or are we falling farther and farther behind? It was the 36th weekend of the year this past weekend, and last year in 2023, it was $88.7 million total for all movies in release, and that was led by The Nun 2. Yep, everybody remember that movie? Yeah, me too. And this year, a very impressive victory. Clearly, the #1 movie made more money than all the other movies combined from last year. Beetlejuice led the way to $147.3 million for all domestic releases. We haven't looked at this chart in a little while, so you can see over the last couple of weeks, we've actually done pretty well. We've been above here in 2024 than we were in 2023. We did drop the last 2 weekends, but we were incredibly close. Only this past weekend to skyrocket back over 2023. Is that a good sign? Well, obviously, anytime you can do better this year than you can the year previously, that's a good sign. But we had such a crap start to the beginning of the year where we couldn't compete ever. Every weekend was just loss after loss after loss, that I'm not sure there's much in the tank left to make 2024 come out on top over 2023. But we'll keep looking at it every week. Okay, the two new charts that we introduced 2 weeks ago to the show was two new comparison charts. Inside Out 2 versus Deadpool and Wolverine. Which movie is going to be the biggest movie of 2024 when everything is all said and done? Well, there's two ways we could take a look at that. Obviously, we can just wait until the numbers come out at the end of the year when these movies are out of theaters and go, which one made the most? But let's go ahead and speculate which one's going to be the #1 movie. First chart we're going to look at here is the day-to-day comparison. Deadpool and Wolverine has been out for 45 days at the theater at time of recording, and this is how it played out. Deadpool and Wolverine had a very big lead in the early days. You can see they are the red line, and that opening weekend really set them up nicely to be the #1 movie of the year. Inside Out 2 is that blue line, and it was kind of getting beat day to day early on. But as it went on and those bars get smaller and smaller, you're going to see that the tiny blue bar almost every day is outpacing that red bar, which is a good thing for Inside Out 2. Looks like it might hold on to the top spot. But let's go ahead and take a look at these two movies week to week instead of day to day, because did that big increase, that big jump off point at the beginning of Deadpool and Wolverine push it over the edge? Well, in week 1, Deadpool and Wolverine had a clear lead, but that lead has been dropping every week of release. Deadpool and Wolverine just did their 6th week, or as it's calculated, their 6th week, and it's a very, very tight race. $1 million separates these two movies by this point in both of their releases. And if we look back at that daily comparison chart, you'll see that Inside Out 2 is pacing ahead of Deadpool and Wolverine day to day. So I imagine when we take a look at these charts again next week, Inside Out 2 is probably going to be ahead, unless for some reason Deadpool and Wolverine just does something amazing this week and this coming weekend. But not sure that's what's going to happen. So as it stands right now, I would venture to say that Inside Out 2 will stay the #1 movie of 2024. It's going to be close though. It's going to be close, and just a few good days could give Deadpool and Wolverine the edge. Okay, speaking of those two movies and all the movies of 2024, let's go ahead and take a look at the top 10 movies of the year so far. In first place is Inside Out 2 with $652 million. It's the biggest movie over the last couple of years. Last 3 years? That's really impressive for them. In second place is Deadpool and Wolverine with 614 million. So it's not that far behind. If it can play 12 weeks in the top 10 like Inside Out 2 did, it's got a good chance of catching up. In third place is Despicable Me 4 with 358 million. Doom Part 2 is in fourth with that 282 million, all the way back from the beginning of this year. In fifth place is Twisters with 264.5 million. Can it catch Dune Part 2 and take that fourth spot? I don't think so, but stranger things have happened. In sixth place is Godzilla and Kong, The New Empire with 196.3 million. Seventh place, Kung Fu Panda 4 with 193 million. Bad Boys Ride or Die is in eighth place, only behind Kung Fu Panda 4 by around $17,000. Are they going to let it keep playing so they can get that spot? I don't know, but it's really interesting to watch this battle for seventh place. In ninth place is Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes with 171 million. And new to this chart is It Ends With Us in 10th place with $141.3 million. If there's something new to the list, it means something fell off. And unfortunately, we are going to say goodbye to A Quiet Place Day 1, which I did finally get around to watching, and it's all right. It's okay. I understand why people like it, but I also understand why it just fell out of the top 10. Okay, that's it for the charts from this past weekend and taking a look at the year overall, but that's this year. What about movies from the past? Well, this is the part of the show where we flash back to one of those movies to see how well it did in theaters, whether it was a big success, a big failure, or just kind of sat somewhere in the middle. And this week, we are flashing back to Edgar Wright's debut film that everybody knew him from, Shaun of the Dead. Simon Pegg, Nick Frost, funny zombies. It was a really good movie. It's got a huge cult following. It actually launched the career of quite a few people, and it's beloved by many. But did it do well at the theaters when it came out? Let's take a look. Domestic week 1, Shaun of the Dead only made $4.4 million. The studios kept 60% of that, so $2.6 million. Domestic week 2, it made another $3.3 million. Studios kept 55% of that for $1.8 million. And domestic week 3 plus the rest of its run, Shaun of the Dead made another $6.5 million here domestically. Studios kept 50% of that, which was about $3.2 million. Internationally, this movie made $25.1 million. The studio kept 40% of that, which was $10 million. It did not get a Chinese release, so we have no numbers for there. The budget for the movie was only $6 million, but the marketing for the movie was also right around that number. They pushed a big marketing campaign for this. They hired zombies to walk streets to promote the movie. They painted subway tunnels to make it look like Shaun was running away from zombies while you were trying to get on the train. Big marketing push for this movie. Did it pay off? Well, the movie grossed $39.3 million worldwide. It netted, after the studios took their portion, $17.7 million. After we minus the $12 million for budget and marketing, the estimated profit for the movie was $5.7 million. Anytime you can come out profitable at the theaters, it's a success. So hats off to you, Shaun of the Dead. You made money where a lot of other movies couldn't. All right, that's it for the show this week. Let me know in the comments down below any of your thoughts on anything we talked about or other things you'd like to see as part of this show. Is there a chart that you're missing? Am I not talking enough about international releases? Is there something new you'd like to see? Let me know in the comments below. I'll see you again next week with another box office roundup, and I have a new series coming to the channel where I rework the Oscars going all the way back to the year 2000. So stick around for that, subscribe, like, share, all that good stuff, so you don't miss a single video that we ever put out. Until I see you next time, be good to yourself, be kind to others, and keep watching movies.